Next up, Iyanla is now with the older brother and the younger brother. So Christian, Christopher, and the mom. They're all sitting together. And this reason now is, this conversation is now happening of this father who was abusive and was a drug dealer. And the mother really is having to take account, is held to account by, she explains what happened. And then Iyanla says, what are you hearing, to the youngest son? What are you hearing? And the son is like, it sounds to me like you are accomplice to him selling drugs. Again, truth, tell the truth and take accountability. And be called to account of what you actually did, and call it what it is. And that was a failure, and that was a disappointment to your children. And as the children are giving this report back to the mother, she starts to cry, and the mom and Iyanla says, you can't fall apart when your children need you. So buckle up. I thought that was very interesting because parents have this tendency when you need them, they become emotionally unavailable. But when they are acting out in dysfunctional ways, they want you to be emotionally available to accept whatever is being dumped at you that is wounding you and that is hurting you. And I thought that was interesting. Iyanla says, when a mother abandons a child, they grow up thinking they don't matter, and what they do doesn't matter, and that their voice doesn't matter, because this mother was now starting to cry, and in a way kind of like saying, oh no, you're going too deep, you're going too deep. And I like what the mother did. She didn't have to be told to do it, or I don't know if the editing worked out this way, but it felt like she didn't have to be told to do it. And she said to the youngest son, I give you permission to tell the truth. I can handle it, and this reminded me, like, as the same theme from last week, about the importance of the parent giving permission to the child to be able to tell the hard truth that holds the parent to account for hurting and wounding their children, because then that lets the child know that they are being heard, and that what they have to say is valuable, and that their voice is not being muted because I'm your mother or I'm your dad and you will not say A, B, C, D to me. Even when children are not being disrespectful in saying it, but they're just trying to relay it, so the younger son eventually says what he wanted to say to the mom, and she apologizes and admits her failure. Again, just going back to the parents not admitting their failures, for me, I experience it as like a form of gaslighting, into being forced as a child to acknowledge only your parents' successes, which are things they were supposed to do anyway. Like I said, shelter you, clothe you, feed you, provide a good education for you, protect you. Those are things that they were supposed to do anyway if they were bringing children into the world. But it's almost like parents gaslight you into praising them for that and not calling them into account for their failures and raising those concerns with them as well. Okay, so next up is when when Iyanla meets with the husband and the wife, the mother and the husband, Demetrius. I don't know why I didn't get this mother's name, but anyway. So basically, they're busy explaining the dynamic to her, and Iyanla says to her, could it be, I could be wrong, but could it be that your experiences of an alpha male kind of aggression and abuse is what led you to go for a more gentler spirit? But do you know how to be with a gentle-spirited man. I guess she says it's not even that, it's just that when we make goals about just basic things like paying bills on time and whatnot, it doesn't get done. And Iyanla says, well, don't get on him about it. If the goal was that he needs, you know, to pay the bills or to pay the light bill and he doesn't pay it and there's no lights, go buy some candles, but don't get on him about it. I guess her perspective is coming from preserving the spirit of a man, because at some point in the process she gives the husband her book called, is it The Spirit of a Man? I also gave that book to my husband, The Spirit of a Man. And then she gives the mother the book Peace from Broken Pieces, you know, which is good combination, because again, look at your broken pieces, heal from them, and then make amends with whom you've hurt along the way, because you were in your broken pieces and not healed. And as for the man understanding himself, getting that book of, you know, The Spirit of a Man, it's also, I think that's understanding himself as a man, and how to, you know, how a woman also can relate to a man in a way that's functional, in a way that works in a relationship dynamic, in a way that shows him respect without emasculating the man. In that regard, Iyanla was just saying, leave the man to lead. If you have called him into your house and you've called him to be a husband in your house, then leave the man to lead. But you don't leave a man to lead you into the ground, but understand also the spirit of a man and move from a place of where you don't kill the spirit of the man in addressing what needs to be addressed. I would think that's what she was saying, that when you do need to address your man, understand how you address your man in such a way that it doesn't emasculate him, or, you know, but let him lead. Don't emasculate him, which is fair enough. I understand that. So the last part was the most exciting part for me. This was time now to air the village grievances, to release the village grievances, and to make new agreements that include accountability, of which a new agreement for which the foundation for that new agreement is accountability, being accountable for what you done and the pain you've caused or the wounding you might have caused somebody else. Particularly from this section of this show, this had me thinking about how I would language what I would say is my grievance with so-and-so or so-and-so and so-and-so in a village grievances hearing, you know. And I think that's what my homework is going to be, is that I'm going to go and think about the different people in my life I have grievances with, and I'm going to language and I'm going to articulate and I'm going to write down, if I need to, what my grievances are, and be very specific, even in their absence, because I think sometimes people think that in order for you to heal, the other person has to be there to hear your grievance. But that's even speaking to yourself, is you processing things out of your system, the hurt, the brokenness, the woundedness out of your system. And sometimes you just don't need to have them there. Perhaps you don't even want to have them there, because you know that they're not ready for the process, but you're ready for the process. Like, by the time people write and they go to Iyanla, they all have agreed to the process. Which is why I probably that it's only 3 relatives out of 8 that showed up. It's only the 3 that showed up that were ready for the process, and the rest weren't, so they weren't obliged to show up. And it's the same when you are now working through, when I am now working through this very same processes myself, is that I don't have to invite people who aren't ready for the process to the process, but I can go on in the process without them, which is exactly, again, what happened last week, is that when Shay, the person who had initiated the process by writing to the show, kind of abandoned the process quite early on, the process was able to continue without her. The person who wasn't ready to be part of the process, okay, they were just put to the side for a second, and the people who were ready, the process was able to go forward for them. And so even when you process, and even as I language, and when you process and you language your own grievances with people, you know, don't think that just because the person is not there to hear you and hear your grievances and hear that you felt this way about them abandoning you or abusing you or being aggravating you or being mean to you or being unkind to you, it doesn't mean that them not being there, it's not as effective. It's actually, in my opinion, I would say even more effective. Than you don't have to deal with someone denying what they did, and if they're not ready, they're not going to take accountability, and that's going to frustrate your process and your readiness to want to heal and to want to let go and to want to release and come back to a place of peace, you know. So all of them, you know, the younger brother expressed the grievances with the mother and the mother's husband. The sister expressed her grievance, saying that, you know, the mother's now taken on a friend role instead of a mother role, where respect is an option, and no, it's not. She's the mother. Respect should not be an option. She should go back into mother role. I think that's how parents, as in old age, try to appease for the pain they've caused, is that they allow their children to run them over as a way of saying sorry. And I didn't even write this in my notes, but I'm realizing that's what's happening in that dynamic, is that sometimes they don't say sorry, but how they will show their remorse for what they did to you is that they will not call you out on your BS, and they will act like your friend when they're supposed to be your parent and remain in a parent role. And what I thought what was interesting in this grievance process is that we hear each other. The people that, you know, are airing, who are hearing the grievances being aired, are hearing the people who are airing the grievances. So there was a mirroring process. Here's my grievance with you. What do you hear me saying? And then the person will have to say it back, so that it's clear that the other person has heard clearly what the grievance has been. And I thought that was very nice, because then sometimes that's how you're able to figure out if someone is ready to heal or not. You're saying, this is my grievance with you, and you say, what do you hear me say? And they go off on a tangent that kind of defends them in what they're hearing, a tangent that is defensive in what they're hearing, and it's like that gives you the opportunity to correct what they're misunderstanding or mishearing about what you're saying, and be heard clearly, so that your voice is heard clearly every time that you do express a grievance, and it's not misinterpreted. So that mirroring process allows for, okay, you got this part right, but let me fix this part for you. I didn't mean that when I said this. This is what I'm saying when I'm saying that. Now what do you hear? And then you mirror back until you understand that what's being said back, mirrored back, is exactly what you said as well. So I think that's very important in, you know, having open conversations about, this is what I'm saying, this is what my grievance is, but what are you hearing, you know? So that was it. I liked this episode. I think there's still a lot of meat to think about, even for myself. I want to go in and really, really internalize, but you know how when you're reviewing, you gotta get things out. But I liked this episode a lot, because it gave an example of how you then facilitate having open conversations in a village, whether it's a family village or a chosen family village. how you facilitate that is that there comes a time you figure out what the problem is, and then you air grievances, you release grievances, everybody is taken into account for what they did, and everybody apologizes, and then you make new agreements that are based on accountability and just respect for each other. Alright, anyway, I will see you again next week. Thank you again for continuing to tune in. I'm very excited about doing these reflections / reviews. So please continue to comment down below and let's talk. I really want to hear from you as to what you think about these episodes as well. And I really want to dialogue and just have it and chop it up and just share different things with you as well, you know. If you have not yet subscribed but you keep coming back to watch, which is like 97% of you all, you watch but you're not subscribing, and I understand there's a lot of channel, but if you feel like you really like this channel, please consider subscribing down below and hit that notifications bell so that every time that I do upload here on the channel you are notified and you don't miss out on anything. Otherwise, I will see you again the next time that I upload. Stay blessed. Bye.